Hello there, I'm Sin. We're in the Book Nook, and today we're going to talk about my past, present, and future of books. What I've finished, what I'm in the middle of, and what we're going to get into. Okay, so recently I finished a book called The Red Knot by Monique Asher. It is weird. It's like Twin Peaks meets cosmic horror meets crime fiction, and it's just so off the wall weird. It was such an addictive read. I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star horror read for me. Like, I could not put this thing down. This book comes out August 26th, currently, as far as I know. I know sometimes that stuff's subject to change, so if anything changes, I'll put a note down below in the description. I discovered this author last year, and I had read her book Don't Eat the Pie, which I thought was pretty good. That one was super weird too. She's a Michigan author. The Red Knot, Monique Asher. If you like weird Twin Peaks cosmic horror, definitely check it out. Okay, so currently I'm in the middle of Matt Haig's newest, The Life Impossible. And so I had read The Midnight Library prior, and I know a lot of people read and loved that book. For me, it fell super flat, and I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything that was that great. Now, I know a lot of people love that book, and you're allowed to. Like, we all have different opinions and whatnot. That's just how it goes here in the book world. So I wanted to give him another chance to see, like, okay, maybe that just one was a little off just for me, because, like, I don't know. So this new one, I'm about halfway in. Addictive read. Super weird. Loving it so far. And I know I did not feel the same way about reading The Midnight Library. And The Midnight Library, I love the concept, and I was like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And I think maybe it was a little overhyped, and maybe that's why it was a little flat to me. But this one, loving. So follows this woman. Her name is Grace. And she ends up inheriting this house from this woman that was someone she used to be a teacher with. Grace was a math teacher, and this other teacher was a music teacher. And she kind of like hit a rough patch where she didn't really know what she wanted to do. She was, like midlife crisis almost. Like, hey, I don't know if I'm happy being a teacher. Like, I want to go and be a singer and follow my dream and musical career. And I kind of want to go to Ibiza. And, Grace spent some time with her and gave her the courage to go and do that. And that always resonated with her. And so that, she said, kind of saved her life. And so when this woman passes away, she leaves her house to Grace. And Grace, like, at this point in time, her husband had died, her son had died when she was 11. She has just felt absolutely nothing for years until she goes to Ibiza, which was very uncharacteristic of her because, yeah, that just wasn't something she does. She's 72 years old. She's like, I have nothing else. Why not just go see what's going on? And, maybe change will be good for me. So she goes. And then she starts to be really curious about what happened to her friend who died, because all that the authorities really told her is that she died at sea, and that was it. And she's like, what? And then as she finds out a little bit more, she finds out, oh, she disappeared when she was diving. And then, oh, it was during the nighttime. And oh, she was out there by herself. So stuff gets like a little weirder and a little weirder. And then she meets this guy who has a scuba dive company. Grace had left her a letter about all these places she wanted her to check out. And then she had also mentioned this guy who had also written a book called The Life Impossible. He runs this little scuba excursion thing. I don't really know how many people go there, because when she finally goes there and meets him, it's like a little shack. There's a goat there. He walks in, he's got like a snake around his neck and whatnot. And she's talking to him, and she wants to find out what happened to her friend. And he's like, well, there's nothing really to tell you, but I can show you. And he's like, what actually brought you here? He's like, was it like the grasses? Because there's these sea grasses that seem to be of this fascination. And then it starts to be like, she hears more stuff from people on the island as she starts to integrate into the society of this island, just about like mysterious lights, possible extraterrestrial life, and all this weird stuff. And as we know, I like weird paranormal things, and this is like a weird paranormal book, and I'm loving it so far. It's so good. Don't let me down ending. I'm really hoping the ending doesn't let me down, but I honestly, I'm into it. I cannot wait to read more of this book. So I should probably just answer it now. I'm going to say that the book I'm the most excited to read is to get more into this one, because I'm loving it. All right, so let's tell you what we're gonna get into. Okay, so the other day I went to, there's this chain, there's only two in my state, called Second and Charles, and it's like a new and used bookstore, but they also have vinyl, and they have video games, and they have toys, and they have instruments and whatnot, but I mainly went there for books, and I ended up picking up Stephen King's The Tommyknockers hardcover. It was 14 bucks. I like to buy my books on sale. And so I got this one because, well, I'm really curious to read it because this is the one that they say he was super like jacked up on cocaine when he wrote it. And so I'm just curious to see the rambly bamblies that went on in his brain when he was all, coked up. Why? Curiosity and fascination, let's be honest. I don't know. So I picked up the Tommyknockers, and as if you've been around the channel, you may know I like weird stuff about paranormal things. Aliens, Mothman, Bigfoot, weird lights, stuff that is strange and things that go bump in the night. So, never read this one. Definitely wanted to check it out. And do we want to read the synopsis, dude? Do you guys know what the Tommyknockers is about? Let's tell you. It begins with nothing more frightening than a nursery rhyme, yet in Stephen King's hands it becomes an unforgettable parable of dread, a threat from an unimaginable darkness that drags the practical inhabitants of a New England village into a hell worse than their own most horrible nightmares, and yours. It begins with a writer named Roberta Anderson, looking for firewood in the forest that stretches behind her house. Bobby stumbles over 3 inches of metal, which unusually heavy spring runoff has left sticking out of the soil. A logger's beer can, she thinks at first, but the metal was as solid as Mother Rock. It begins with Bobby's discovery of the ship in the earth, a ship buried for millions of years, but still vibrating faintly, still humming with some sort of life. Faint, weak, but still better left alone. Bobby then begins to dig. Tentatively at first, then compulsively, and is joined by her old friend and one-time lover, Jim Gardner. Aided by a weirdly advanced technology, their excavation proceeds apace. And as they uncover more and more of an artifact, both familiar and so unbelievable, it is almost beyond comprehension. The inhabitants of Haven start to change. There is the new hot water heater in Bobby's basement, a hot water heater that apparently runs on flashlight batteries. The vengeful housewife who learns of her husband's affair from a picture of Jesus on top of her TV, a picture that begins to talk. Not to mention the 10-year-old magician who makes his little brother disappear for real. The townspeople of Haven are being welded into one organic, homicidal, and fearsomely brilliant entity in fatal thrall to the Tommyknockers. So yeah, the Tommyknockers, brought to you by Stephen King and cocaine. So I don't know when I'm going to read this, but this is one I've wanted to check out for a while. So yeah, when I do read it, there'll be a standalone review for this one for sure. Okay, and now we got a few books from the library. And so the first one is, because I like books about cats, we have The Curious Kitten at the Chibano Kitchen by Yuta Takahashi. And I just love books about cats. So every once in a while, there will be a book that has to do with cats. In a remote seaside town outside of Tokyo, Kotako makes her way along a seashell path, lured by whispers of an enigmatic restaurant whose kagazin, or traditional meals offered in remembrance of loved ones, promise a reunion with the departed. When a gust of wind lifts off her hat, she sees running after it a young man who looks like her recently deceased brother. But it's not her brother, it's Kai, the restaurant's young chef, who returns her hat and brings her to the tiny establishment, where he introduces her to Chibi, the resident kitten, and serves her steaming bowls of simmered fish, rice, and miso soup, the exact meal her brother used to cook for her. As she takes her first delicious bite, the gulls outside fall silent, the air grows hazy, and Kotako begins a magical journey of last chances and new beginnings. And I thought that sounded really sweet and magical, and there's a cat, so yes please. All right, so after that one, this is the book that I put on hold months ago, and it just came in, and I'm super stoked for reading this. This is Silvia Moreno Garcia's newest, The Bewitching. Sorry, it's very shiny. I loved the last book of hers I read, which was Silver Nitrate. Awesome. I have a standalone review for that one if you want to check it out. I'll put a link down below in the darkness. All right, so let's tell you what The Bewitching is about. I'm going to assume kind of witchy because bewitching, right? 3 different women in 3 different eras encounter danger and witchcraft in this eerie multi-generational horror saga. Back then, when I was a young woman, there were still witches. That was how Nana Alba always began the stories she told her great-granddaughter Minerva. Stories that have stayed with Minerva all her life. Perhaps that's why Minerva has become a graduate student focused on the history of horror literature and is researching the life of Beatrice Tremblay, an obscure author of macabre tales. In the course of assembling her thesis, Minerva uncovers information that reveals that Tremblay's most famous novel, The Vanishing, was inspired by a true story, decades earlier during the Great Depression. Tremblay attended the same university where Minerva is now studying and became obsessed with her beautiful and otherworldly roommate, who then disappeared under mysterious circumstances. As Minerva descends even deeper into Tremblay's manuscript, she begins to sense that the malign force that stalked Tremblay and the missing girl might still walk the halls of the campus. These disturbing events echo the stories Nana Alba told her about girlhood in the 1900s in Mexico, where she had a terrifying encounter with a witch. Minerva suspects that the same shadow that darkened the lives of her great-grandmother and Beatrice Tremblay is now threatening her own in 1990s Massachusetts. An academic career can be a punishing pursuit, but it might turn outright deadly when witchcraft is involved. And I'm super stoked to read that. I love witchy reads. So The Bewitching by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Super excited to read it. So this would be my second most excited to read out of what I'm getting into. Have any of you guys read The Tommyknockers? What are your thoughts on that one? Because, yeah, I think this is still the next book I'm going to read in Stephen King land is probably going to be Eyes of the Dragon, just because I wanted to read that because of the connection to the Dark Tower. But Tommyknockers, maybe in a few months. Maybe I'll read that in like October. We'll see. I'll figure it out. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts were on the Tommyknockers if you have read that. And if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.